am Michelle Oliver. If you don't know me, everyone on LinkedIn and wherever this is streaming. And every Friday morning, I come to you with Expitality Time. And Expitality is, I'm actually the CEO and founder of Expitality, and we help people build extraordinary and exceptional experiential, there's 3 EX words for you, say that 10 times fast, experiential outdoor hospitality businesses. Why? Because hospitality truly does transform the world. I know Carl's going to agree with me on that. So I'm here today in beautiful Fort Collins where I live, and I'm going to show them really quick and then I'll introduce you, okay? We're at the Sunset Lounge. If you guys can see this gorgeous lounge, there's a piano in the corner. And what makes it spectacular is the view of our beautiful town. And it's kind of rainy, which is very strange for Colorado, Fort Collins, Colorado. And this is the Elizabeth Hotel, which is one of the most charming musical themed hotels that I've ever been to. And I am so graced by your presence today. I'm here with Carl Pratt, and I know it's kind of awkward, guys, but it's going to be worth your time. So I come here all the time to work. And the reason I come again and again and again is because of your staff.
Mhm.
Because I walked in this morning and the girls were like, hello, so good to see you. What are you here for today? Do you want us to get you coffee or water? And that's what I call hospitality. So I asked Carl if he would sit down with me for a few minutes today and just share, because one of the biggest missions of Expitality is to assist outdoor hospitality owners, businesses, properties to bring hotel best practices to that space. It's a tremendous opportunity. So Carl, welcome.
Thank you.
It's Carl.
Thanks so
It's
much.
good to see
Nice
you.
to be with you, Michelle.
I think today, share a little bit if you would. So we're in this beautiful hotel that you come in and there's a spiral staircase and it's all music themed in a really creative way. But you can't lean only onto the accommodations,
Right.
the beauty and the concept. And yeah, this is a really cool concept, but maybe share a little bit about the theming first so that people
Yeah.
understand, because it's definitely worth it. And when I first moved to Fort Collins in 2018, sorry, I keep talking everyone, but I was part of the chamber and I got to come on the tour. So I saw all of the crazy beautiful rooms.
Mhm.
They're exquisite, but share with us a little bit about that.
Yes. So the music theme is present everywhere. We have a lending library of guitars. So anybody who'd like to just jam in the lobby or up in their room, they're welcome to do that. And we have guitars in order for them to enjoy, so they don't have to travel with it. We also have open mic nights that would allow for people to enjoy that, either their performance or others that are bringing their talents to us. We have live music Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Magic Rat, which is our live entertainment music venue that has generally Colorado local bands. And Sunset Lounge, where we are right now, has a piano band, piano
Sunset
bar,
Lounge.
basically coming here. We'll sometimes spice that up a little bit with other band that are 2 and 3 piece, but effectively, and then in addition to that, we have record players in all the rooms. So
yeah, like real I've stayed here a few nights
yeah.
too, and it's so amazing. You can go down and choose your vinyl.
Right. Yeah. So we have a selection of 800 vinyl records. And so as a result, the feeling of music and the feeling of community is what we very much work towards, because between Sunset Lounge, our restaurants, and Magic Rat, there's no cover charge, so anybody can come. And the idea is bringing the community together here with music, which is a big part of Fort Collins. So
you also have e-bikes in your lobby.
Yeah, they're just for borrow. So
Yeah.
opportunities to explore and enjoy Fort Collins.
Yeah.
And all the things that it offers.
Which is great because we're really close to the old town area.
Mhm.
So you could literally walk, but it's more fun to take a bike. You can go different places. Anyway, so basically the idea is they have everything is beautiful, everything is upscale, everything is really well appointed,
Mhm.
and yet that is never going to be enough. So let's talk a little bit about, if you would share maybe hotel best practices. We were starting to talk about wherever someone is landing, if it's a glamping site, an RV resort, a hotel, what are they doing before they get there? They're traveling.
Yeah.
So Carl just brought that up. And what are the expectations with that? So let's just talk about some of that stuff.
I think
Look at his guitar pick.
yeah, this is
Like it,
to
everything,
symbolize that.
every
Yeah.
detail. It's so awesome
Well,
here.
and those are some of the things that you want to try to provide in a sense of place. And what is that experiential element that you can provide in a way which is going to be unique and
Mhm.
also engaging in every way.
Yeah.
So the idea here is to find those folks that are interested and then and invite them to feel comfortable to be in this space and to enjoy it as they choose. The idea of meeting people where they are. And that can listen, that can also be they're tired from travel. And
Right.
what can we do to be sure that we're accommodating what their needs are upon arrival? So
Mhm.
anticipating those needs, knowing where they're coming from, knowing what circumstances it might be that they're having to have gone through to get here.
Mhm.
So, and I found that our team, and I've been here a year, and I found our team, even the day I arrived, they're just so warm and welcoming, just naturally. So
Yeah.
it's very personality driven. Um, and even though there's systems and processes that you have to go through,
Mhm.
the idea of you're welcome this morning with a cheery hello,
Yeah.
that is something that you don't always get.
No,
And I,
you rarely get it,
yeah,
to be honest.
yeah, and if you get it,
Right.
it's welcome in, right? There's nothing really
Mhm.
behind it. So the authenticity and the genuineness of our team is something that I think is unique, more unique than it should be, but something
Mhm.
that can really differentiate who you are
Yeah.
as an organization and as a hospitality experience.
Okay, so one of the points I just want to bring attention to for anyone who's watching is, we often, like the clients that I work with, they often begin with place. Okay, and I love that you mentioned that.
Mm.
And that is just, it makes sense, right? So, but people come into outdoor hospitality thinking we are r- ridiculously unique. We are the only ones who've ever thought of this, right? So, because I deal with so many people, I know that's not true. I'm sorry, but often what we think is extraordinarily unique as a place, it the accommodations maybe, and the concept, like inside of your heart and your vision, maybe, but you have to be able to position it, which you also mentioned. So you're inviting people to the place, and that is about your brand, right? So it's really who you are and then how you're inviting them. So the biggest thing that you said is anticipating their needs.
Yeah, and and it's that oftentimes, particularly with a brands can you can lose your soul in a brand, but this is an autograph collection with Marriott.
Mm.
It really brings a very specific intention to be different, and
Yes.
to be different is both with the place but also with the individual. So our staff are not really uniformed. I mean, we have them wear a black shirt and jeans,
Mhm.
and but it's also so that feels like
Mhm.
you're home visiting friends, and that
Yeah.
and it's not curated to the degree in which um it feels rehearsed. It is intended to give guidelines that allow for people to be themselves.
Mhm.
We don't cover tattoos. We let people color their hair. So we bring personality, and let our team bring personality to this experience because they have a really unique perspective just by themselves. And
Mhm.
so that helps with each interaction that they have with our guests.
Mhm.
And and I think the stories behind them is oftentimes told. And that is another part of the experience that you're getting to know us. And as much as we want to get to know you.
Okay, so so many words that mean so much that you've said. I think we could We could do like a month series on this. So when you say the story, let's focus on that a little bit, because this is something I talk with clients about a lot, and people can shove that off to the side. But every person has a story,
Right.
like you're saying,
Yep.
but the brand also has a story. You would not know that this is a Marriott except for the systems and processes.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And so those systems, the whole operational thing that Marriott has dialed in so well,
Mhm.
serves to really, it's like the foundation of this. But this is a personnel. This could be like a little boutique hotel in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so unique. And how do you carry that energy? Because I think when you're saying like, you go into a hotel and they're like, hello, nice. Those are the people that are lost inside of the processes
Right.
and systems.
Yeah.
These are people who allow those things to be the tools on which they create. And they're like every moment matters,
Right.
right?
Right.
So how do you inform how do you teach your staff and train them to be that way?
Well, and this is the old answer. You find the right people.
Did you hear that?
You find the right people who are,
I've said that 10 million. It
yeah,
has to be the right people.
yeah. And at the same time, there has to be not necessarily some degree of guidance,
Mhm.
but it also has to be encouraged. If you allow the systems to get in the way and you force the systems on the team and or
Mhm.
on the process, then it starts to dissolve, and it turns into a transactional experience versus an experiential engagement. And
Yes.
so we talk about engage first, task second, engage last. So
Oh
this
my
I
gosh, I love that so
right,
much.
so say hello, make eye contact, welcome, and then go to the tasks that you have to go through as far as the process. And then at the end, be sure that you're asking not just a rhetorical question of, is there anything else I can do for you? It's more of, what more can we do? Or what special thing can I do for you? Or what might you need specifically that would make it stay particularly more enjoyable? So it doesn't become a sense of um, pattern. When you have a
Yeah.
pattern, then it gets lost in the lack of intention.
You are so, I just align so much with everything you're saying. Just brilliant. And yet, I think people in anyone who's really loved hospitality, even if it was for a short time during their life, my partner Randy always calls it the care gene. And I think like I was down in Boulder at the Julian Hotel the other day, which is also one of my favorites. I don't know if you've ever been there.
But it sounds like I
Oh
need to
my
go.
gosh, I
Yeah,
love it. You will love it.
yeah.
And it's a locally owned private hotel, but there was a new guy who started that day, and I didn't realize it, but he walked in. I was just working in the lounge, and I could feel it from across the room. He was like this open, how do I serve you? And he was so eager because it was his first day. And I was just like, oh my God, he's gonna go far because he has that care gene, as
Yeah.
Randy refers to it. So that's the right people, but even the right people with the wrong management will be stunted and
Yep.
afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, so for one of the best examples I probably can point to is one of our Bell staff
Mhm.
loves vinyl. They have a huge vinyl collection at home, and they're very engaged with the whole experience of vinyl.
Yeah.
And so we asked that person to help us with curating additional albums. They put together
Oh, that's awesome.
a whole it's not their job duty. There's a part of it to be engaged with our music theme, but she went out and bought the albums. We put our turntable at the front desk, and the idea was to have our front desk team that day select an album of the day, and we would play that album throughout the day or switch it out.
Oh, that's
But she
awesome.
also asked the team which albums which would they want to play. So it became again a personality influence, and they're more engaged with wanting to play their album that day and talk about why that music is something they selected. So again, that story starts to really build, and that
Mhm.
person is now so much more engaged in us because they have a personal interest that they're bringing to the hotel.
This is so valuable, Carl. I can't. I mean, it's so simple. Anyone that's
That's the,
watching
yeah.
this, it's simple, and yet I can't tell you how many clients I've had who, when you have something of your own, like this dream that you want to turn into a glamping
Mhm.
business or whatever, it's hard to let go
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
So, but the secret to success is empowering your staff
Yeah.
and allowing them to have their own story. It's like, here's how I think about it working with every client, every guest that comes in, and hospitality knows this, they become the hero of their own story.
Mhm.
That's your goal, right?
Yeah.
And the same is true with your team. They need to become the hero of whatever their agenda is through your vehicle,
Yeah.
which is the business. You are doing this.
Right.
And that's why it's such a magical place to come. And in hospitality, you can use the word magic because everybody gets it.
Yeah.
It's like that's the magic. There's a magic sauce
Mhm.
that will really make people sparkle and keep them coming back. Um,
I would say
what
just one thing that you were speaking about as far as the care.
mhm,
One of the things that I've tried to do is find people who have a strong sense of humanitarian. So to be a humanitarian is very different than being a person at the front desk who's going through the process, because they
mhm.
immediately have this sense of person, of themselves, but also then curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, and we do everything we can, and every initiative and intention is not always um, executed exactly how you want, but that's the goal. The goal is to have an intention that will be executed most of the time, and it is, as you said, it has to be encouraged. We have to find those ways that will get the team engaged so that it's theirs, not mine.
So important. I
Yeah.
just love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
There's such a difference between somebody just saying the words, you know? I mean, Chick-fil-A, like my pleasure, right? That's a beautiful thing, by the way. And at that level it works,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you almost have to control the behavior like
Right.
that.
Yep.
But it goes so far beyond that. And what you're doing is really engaging the spirit of the person
Right.
to connect with the spirit of the guest.
Yeah.
And that's what transforms lives. Like
Yeah.
that's why hospitality changes lives. And I truly believe in it. Oh my gosh, I keep losing my train of thought because everything you say, I want to say something back. Um, what were you just saying about, oh, the
Yeah.
humanitarianism? Okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So a lot of, I hope I'm not breaking your table. I'm
That's
putting
fine.
my foot up here. A lot of people who will become your staff members, um, they have not been encouraged. Okay.
Mm.
They come out of whatever training of do it this way, they're in a box or
Right.
whatever. So when you have a manager, someone like you, it's one of those things where you look back and you're like, that guy changed my life because he allowed me to contribute. And it's almost like it becomes their mission.
Right.
And that's what you want. You
Right.
want it to become their
Right.
mission. So I know what else I wanted to ask you. When I was asking you how you have been so successful,
Mm.
your answer was so awesome. It was like, oh, well, I'm a doer. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think what I have seen around me at times is there's something that needs to be solved, and
Mm,
people are waiting for somebody else to do it. And it's not so much mm, they didn't have they had the capacity. It was a simple task that needed to be done,
mhm.
but it was a degree of I'm going to stay here instead of taking a step forward. And it's a very simple thing to do in the sense of, because what I see is I'm benefiting my personal self by doing, and if it helps everybody else, then that's great. But there's so many things to do in an environment like this, because it's every day, every hour is different.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you're going to get. So the experience that I've had with hospitality is, if I do what needs to be done, then it does a couple of things. One, it generally takes care of the problem. We might need to work a little harder to figure out engineer a solution,
Mhm.
right? But then everybody just goes with you,
Yes.
right? So then it starts to be a culture that if I'm bussing tables in the restaurant, or if I'm helping out with housekeeping, then others will just see that, and then it becomes a mentoring experience through experiential, instead of
Mhm.
talking to people about we should all help each other. So there does have to be leadership that is alongside, and this is even
Yes.
more critical with this generation than it ever has been.
Yeah,
So,
because they haven't had that.
right.
And there's so much information available, like resources. I think people often think they are doing when they're learning, or
Right.
they're like on YouTube University
Right.
or whatever. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
okay, I watched that video. Now I did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason we connected is because there was one day I was walking through the bar, through leaving the coffee shop, going to the bar, coming to the front to the lobby, and I think there were 3 people in the restaurant.
Mhm.
So normally, what happens to you guys normally? Like, it was that lull time where coffee shop was closing, dinner wasn't quite happening, no one,
Yep.
and that would be the time when staff would just be, okay, we're just preparing, going around, getting ready. They're going to ignore the last 2 people
Mhm.
and just assume you're on your way out, but you didn't.
Right.
And this is the thing that I want everybody to get. Like, how do you feel when you are somewhere? I mean, that's the key.
Yeah.
How are you making people,
Right.
what are you inviting them to feel? Everyone wants to feel seen,
Mhm.
even if they tell you they don't.
Even more important today, right? There was a
Yes.
day when that was okay, but now and really with everything post-COVID, and et cetera, loneliness,
Yeah.
anxiety, stress, all the things that are happening. If there's a moment that that point of engagement can
Yeah.
make a difference,
Yeah.
because you're being seen, but also because, and for me, there's a benefit because I like to talk to people. I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, it's curious, right?
Right.
And it's fun to have.
Curiosity. And I love every word you say. It's like, you could deep dive on any single one of
Yeah.
these concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're not curious, or if you say hello and you just say hello and then you talk about the weather, that's very different than saying hello and I've seen you here a couple of times now. Thanks very much for being with us. Is there
Yeah.
anything else we can, right? So, and what is it that's bringing you here?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, and then it becomes a story
Mhm.
instead of a conversation.
Okay, hear that, everybody. It's everybody. Like, to me, this is why you can't discount the visioning process and the strategic planning that comes out
Yeah.
of visioning, because life is basically nothing more or less than a story.
Yeah.
And it's constant. Like, we have stories in our heads, we're telling ourselves a story. And I'm sure I was telling myself a story that day. I don't know what it was, but it's like, I'm leaving now, and you interrupted that pattern.
Mhm.
And see, so pattern interrupts, like back to
Yeah.
what you said initially.
Yeah.
You interrupted that pattern, and I'm automatically going to assume what's happening in my environment based on my history, right?
Right.
Of being in hotels or a restaurant at this time. Like, okay, they want me out of here, I'm leaving. But you interrupted that pattern, and you were curious and cared. And I was like, this is weird. Like, oh my gosh, pattern interrupt, right? So you
Yeah.
stop, and then you either open to it or you don't. But as a guest, you become curious, because it's like, wait, this is something unique and different happening. And it's not a big thing. It's not like you showed up with you know, a bottle of wine and like a charcuterie board, and it's like, hey, stay longer.
Yeah.
It was just a very simple connect, a very simple connect.
Yep.
So if someone shows up at a glamping site,
Mm.
and what we're interested in is hotel best practices, it doesn't have to be something extraordinary.
No, as a matter of fact, I've used the phrase, you don't have to be much better than the rest to be great, which is in some ways sad, but at the same time, there is, if you bring yourself to it, then you
Mhm.
will immediately differentiate. If you bring yourself to that experience, then you also are making it a different experience for anybody who's traveling, because that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Because it has turned into more of a transactional
Yeah.
experience in a lot of hotels.
Yeah. Because of all the automated options.
Right.
You can be checked in. I don't remember which hotel is doing this, but with a kiosk.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it can be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
For some, however, and this is an interesting point of conversation, for some, that's incredibly convenient. I'm a business traveler. I deal with
yeah,
people all day. I've been dealing with airports and trains
right.
and taxis and Ubers, and now I just want to get to my room.
Totally.
Totally efficient. So there is a place of convenience, and you're meeting that person for what their needs are.
Mhm.
However, having somebody there next to the kiosk, like in grocery stores now, right? You have one person
Right.
at the end and you're checking. I prefer to do my own checkout,
Yeah.
but there's a person standing there if I need some help. And hopefully you have somebody who's engaging and can make that checkout experience what I want, with a
Mhm.
little bit of engagement as well, right?
Exactly.
So, but it does have to be there still has to be the human connection.
Well, and even if you have the option to check in, and I totally get that, especially like with glamping, if you've been driving and you come in and you don't want to see anybody, or it's midnight or whatever, you want to just have that automated. But that doesn't mean you don't want the human touch
Right.
in other ways. And there's a
Exactly
million
right.
ways to do it.
Yeah. And I do think I think glamping lends itself to a more human interaction from the beginning.
Mhm.
That it would be, my expectation in my head would be, if I'm glamping, then I'm being greeted, because that's a very different experience. And also, if I've never done it before, I'm not entirely comfortable with what I'm getting myself into, so to
Mhm.
speak, right? I might have looked online, I might have looked at the tents, I might have looked at the location, but it's a very different experience. And if it's the first time I've done this, and right, with these locations, you're probably the first time that person's visited you or been in this location. So
Interesting. That's a really interesting consideration. Guess so from my experience, they do want guidance.
yes,
They say they want freedom
right.
and they want to be guided in that journey.
Mhm.
Do you, so why do you agree with that? Have you been glamping? You're
No, well, as
what
a
if,
kid, I went camping.
yeah, right.
It was,
Yeah.
the old school stuff. And, but it was always more of a feeling of adventure. When you check
Hmm.
into a hotel, everything's curated, everything's set up for you.
Right.
When you're camping or glamping, it's a very different
Hmm.
initial experience.
Hmm.
And I think people do one, I would expect somebody to say hello to me as I'm, right. And also guide me through the space. There was a day when hospitality had a bell person who would bring you to your room, show you the amenities in the room and all of those kinds of things. That's no longer the case, because it's a financial concern, right? With profitability.
Yeah.
With glamping, however, I think that there's a really great opportunity to bring that back and bring back that sense of connection. And as you're talking to those individuals about this space, you can then be much more engaging, and you can share more of what
I
you
feel
have.
like we should have another conversation about this. It's so interesting to me because so think about the millennial generation. A lot of those people are doing the glamping stuff,
Yeah.
right? They want adventure. They've grown up with digital everything.
Mhm.
So they love the option of not seeing people. Like they're comfortable with it. They're
Yep.
more comfortable with it.
Yep.
But in my mind, that brings, like you're saying, the opportunity to almost have the butler experience
Yeah.
where, okay, now we're going back in time. It becomes really charming and nostalgic. And then you're creating a safety net with the freedom of adventure
Yeah.
and all of the AI and the technology that you get the text welcome and all those cool things. So okay, so I'm gonna have to stop here, but let's what would you like to share? Like, um, I don't know, maybe we play a game. If you went camping
Yeah.
and the you had this like three different areas you could go to on this site. You could go to the really raw camping, old school,
Mhm.
or you could go to the luxury tents, or you could go to like dispersed hotel kind of thing. Um, what would you, and you owned this property, let's just say you own the property. What would you bring from your hotel background to that experience other than this kind of curated
Yeah.
butler thing?
Um,
Which, by the way, we should talk
yeah.
about.
I think the one thing I would say, and at a point,
I'm putting you
yeah,
on the spot.
but
I'm
I think
sorry.
safety is a question for me,
Okay, great.
right?
Yeah.
So, if you go to if I'm out in a tent at this point in time in my life, I've had enough experiences where
Yeah.
that would feel
Bears
a little
here
bit
in Colorado.
risky.
Bears
Um,
and mountain lions right over
yeah,
there.
exactly. And so there's that element of how do I communicate and what would I do to be sure that everybody feels safe?
So important.
Yeah, because in a hotel room, you lock the door. When you're glamping, anybody could enter your tent at any time, no matter how you lock it, right?
Right.
So I think that there's some have a little bit more of that, and some have, so what if somebody comes into my tent?
Right.
Well, this day and age is a little bit more tension around that. So I think that that would be one thing that might be of interest to consider for those who are transitioning from a hotel experience into a more relaxed environment like a tent.
That is a really, really important and great point. There's one thing I know about humans is they lie to themselves and to others.
Mhm.
Like you really they think they want something,
Right.
and they really do want the safety to get there. They
Yeah.
want a hand to kind of
Well,
guide them.
and one experience around that. So when I was working at Canyon Ranch, we did hikes and people would come from the city and we would be hiking in the woods.
Mm.
And this one person said, how many bears are we going to see? Well, the reality is none,
Right,
because they don't want anything to do with you.
right.
But they were very nervous. I mean,
Yeah,
really nervous about going on the hike. I don't want to go on this hike if there's going to be bears. And so what we would do is for that person, we put bells on their shoes
mhm,
so that we reassured them that that noise will keep the bear away.
yeah,
Never would have dawned on me because I grew up in the areas where bears were not that uncommon and
right,
you know what to do.
right.
But for them coming off of a city street, it's incredibly dangerous
Yeah,
feeling. When I go to a city, I'm not that familiar with that. So it feels incredibly dangerous for me to walk down a sidewalk.
right.
But that person is like, no, don't worry about that. That's, that's only one or two sections.
Yeah,
So that's where you have to meet the person where they are.
that's so true.
Okay.
Okay, there's so many takeaways, everyone. I don't even know where to start, but accommodations, the place matters, the positioning matters, the people matter. I guess it's like the P's. The
Yeah.
takeaways are all P's.
Yeah.
Um, now I can only think in terms of peace and safety. Peace and safety, peace
Protection.
and protection. Yeah. But Carl, you are a delight. I'm so happy that you are open to doing this.
Well, thanks,
And
Michelle.
I feel like we could anyway have other conversations maybe on or offline. We'll see. But just really appreciate what you guys have brought to Fort Collins
Mhm.
and your care, Gene,
Yeah.
and what you've done with your staff, because I've met a number of them, from the bartenders to the baristas, the waiters, waitresses, all of them. They just see, they are doers.
Mhm.
They act first. And I think we'll close on that, because to me, that's the most important thing is how did you say it? Engage,
Engage,
and then
engage.
task, engage.
Yeah.
That'll change your life, everyone. Okay, well, signing off for today. We'll be back next week. And thank you again. I
Thanks,
really
Michelle.
appreciate you.